Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to do a dual review in this video. I'm going to talk about Gone for Good and Long Gone by Joanna Schaffhausen. And they are the detective let me go to it right. Annalisa Vega, books 1 and 2. Now, obviously, book number 1, Gone for Good, is out. And Long Gone will be out next week. So I'm just going to go ahead and combine the videos. So, what is this one about? And I'll pop up the cover now, which is Gone for Good. And before I do that, I wanted to say something. Over the last year or so, I read 5 books in the Ellery Hathaway series by Joanna Schaffhausen, and I loved that series. And so when I saw her name on Goodreads, quite naturally, I grabbed these books, even though they're not part of that series. Now, I did allow this book here, Gone for Good, to sit on my Goodreads shelf for a long time, but since I did, I was able to read it back to back with Long Gone. So I love the connection of time on my end where I could read 2 books that were closely connected. Now, Gone for Good is about a serial killer who was monikered the Lovelorn Killer. He murdered 7 women. He had a ritual, and then he would write love letters to newspapers. Okay? That's who the Lovelorn Killer was. But after the 7th woman, he just disappeared. Perhaps he's gone for good? Look at the title, Gone for Good. Well, the thing is, whether or not he's gone for good, there's a group of people that are amateur sleuths. They have a huge, online environment, and they have charts and those murder boards and the whole 9 yards. And they're determined to find this Lovelorn Killer because the police did not find this killer. And one of these people that are in this vigilante or amateur sleuth team is Grace Harper. She works in a grocery store during the day, but at night she's on her computer and she's doing this and that and the other, and she's corresponding. Well, guess what? She becomes one of his victims. Okay? So he's been gone 20 years, and now Grace Harper is dead, and the MO really leads to the biggest murder case Chicago has ever seen when it came to a murder case that had not yet been solved, and that was the Lovelorn Killer. Now, let's talk about Detective Annalisa Vega. Okay? Now, she is a detective for the Chicago Police Force, and she is affected by the actions of the Lovelorn Killer. Okay? Someone she loved was murdered by the Lovelorn Killer. Okay? Now she has been assigned this case, and if she can make things right if she can solve this case, she can make things right by somebody else that was affected by the Lovelorn Killer. But also, Annalisa is also assigned a new partner. She's a detective, and she gets assigned a new partner. Her new partner is none other than her ex-boyfriend. Okay, ex-husband. They were only married for a minute, 2 years or even months, but they were teenagers when they got married, and it didn't work, and they didn't see each other for several years. And now he's on the police force, and he's her partner. So there's some friction because they didn't gel. But now they're working together, and not only are they working together to identify the serial killer, remember, is a letter writer. He writes the newspaper. He's writing these love letters to the newspapers. Well, this serial killer has set Anna into his sights, laser focused on Anna. Okay? Now, as he's stalking his victims, anybody that gets in the way, that's it. It's sad but true. If somebody gets in the way of this killer trying to corner and kill Annalisa, unnecessary lives are lost. Now, we've talked briefly about the fact that Annalisa's ex-husband of when she was a kid is now her partner, right? And his name is Nick. But he's not the only man who's suddenly in Anna's life right now. The other man is Colin. Who's Colin? Colin was the love of her life, okay? When they were teenagers, they had a hot and heavy relationship. But something happened something happened when they were teenagers. And Colin now is a world traveler doing his work all over the world. He's gone. He's out. Gone. Well, now that that woman, Grace Harper, had been killed, then it means that the serial killer is back. Since the serial killer is back, this has something to do with Colin. There's a connection there, and I'm not going to tell you the connection. What I will tell you is that it's fast-paced, okay? It's full of action, and it tells a very solid story. And then, of course, there's that love triangle between Annalisa, Nick, and Colin. Where will that go? Okay? So if you like a fast-paced book that will just suck you in and not let you go until you finish it, then Gone for Good is the book that you want to read. Now, we're going to talk about book number 2, Long Gone. Okay? First one was Gone for Good. Now we're talking about Long Gone, and the cover's coming up. Now, at the end of Gone for Good, Annalisa Vega did something that was probably one of the most difficult things she ever did in her life. And I don't want to tell you what she did, even though it's in the blurb. So don't look at the blurb if you haven't read Gone for Good. Do not look at the blurb for Long Gone if you want to read them both. But Annalisa made a decision right at the end of Gone for Good. And now her personal and her professional life are shattered. Just okay. Now, this causes a rift in her family. This causes a rift on her job. And this affects her relationships, plural, because of that love triangle we touched on a few minutes ago. Meanwhile, she's still trying to do her job. What's her job right now? Well, there's a detective named Leo Hammond, and he gets murdered. And Annalisa takes on the case despite all you'll see it. If you read Gone for Good, then you already know what happened. Or if you're reading them in succession like I did, then you'll see what happens. So despite the pressure of her job and other officers not treating her with the respect that she deserves, she's going to find out who killed this detective. Okay? And more than that, she is trying to figure out her relationships, because that serial killer, that loved one killer, has really botched her relationships in multiple ways. But now, when I'll just say her best friend, because I'm trying so hard not to give you any spoilers, because talking about book 2 makes it hard if I'm worried that readers have not read book 1 yet. That's the hesitation there. So, her best friend is dating somebody who was suspected of murder years ago, okay? And then when this old school detective turns up dead, then Annalisa has to really look into this, because this is her best friend, and who's, this guy that she's dating, does he have anything to do with this particular detective being killed? And it's not just the detective, and it's not just now. It's past, it's present, and there's a lot of bodies, okay? Is it complicated? Of course it is. Is it riveting? Of course it is. Is it as enjoyable as Gone for Good? Most definitely. In fact, I kind of got into this one more than I did Gone for Good. And the reason why is Annalisa is a beacon of strength. Her character is amazing. Her decision that she made that caused that huge rift in her family and in her coworkers shows the integrity she has. And it was her integrity that makes her so compelling, and her honesty and her intelligence. And I hope there's a lot more books in this series. That's how I feel about that. So if Annalisa can solve this case, then she has to look back at a cold case that ties into this case, okay? And the thing is, when we're reading this, we're realizing that as Annalisa is talking to different people and working on this, that the cop, Leo, a lot of people wanted him dead. So as a reader, what you're trying to do is you're trying to suss out the killer. But there's lots of twists and turns, and there's lots of red herrings, and, it gets a little complicated, okay? And everything changes. And then it starts, and you start to hone in on something, and then another twist. That's why Joanna Schaffhausen is becoming somebody that I will consider a favorite, because I think this makes book number 7 that I have read by her. Is there anything more that I can say? Let me think. Okay. Yes, there's one more thing. Remember that love triangle that I talked about? First of all, I hate love triangles. I love what happened with regard to that. And because of that, it made the book, it gave the book an emotional edge, along with the sense of danger, the action, the suspense. There's a bit of emotion in here that I saw coming through the pages of this book. And by so doing, it made me uber excited for book number 3. Now, these come out once a year, so I've got a long wait. But hopefully you'll read both of these books and love them just as much as I did. Alrighty, so let's see where they are. These are Minotaur books, so they're about $15 for your Kindle version, and your hardcover version is $25, and you can also get them by, I'm pretty sure you can get them via Audible. Just checking. Yes. Yep. Audible versions, library versions, and in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I got Gone for Good as an audio library book from my library, okay? I am going to say something else, and I have to go here for a second on my device. So I wanted to check to see the narrators. So I did shut my camera off and turn it back on. Gone for Good is narrated by Kelsey Navarro. And like I said, I got that one from my library because it was already out. And yes, Kelsey Navarro. Kelsey Navarro narrates both of these books. You should be able to, since I was able to get Gone for Good from my library, you most likely will be able to get Long Gone from your library when the book is released. Now, Kelsey Navarro had to narrate a lot of voices. She had to narrate, our primary characters, our secondary characters, and even our killers. And let me tell you, Dreamscape Media is the publisher, the audiobook publisher, and they picked a great narrator, and it was really, really good. I did, when I shut the camera off, check Audible, and it's not listed on Audible yet, but I'm certain that it will be. But anyway, that kind of makes the end of this video kind of messy, but I just wanted to share that with you. Alrighty, thank you for watching. Bye.